Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of Salong 3. This is a movie podcast where we discuss mostly overlooked films you perhaps don't love but maybe should. I'm your host, Martin de Grell, and this season is all about producer, director, and sensational self-promoter William Castle, the master of gimmicks himself. Focusing, of course, on the horror and horror-adjacent movies that made Castle famous, circa 1959 to 1964, when he was his own man with his own production company. And in this episode, we will pick apart the 1961 gothic thriller, Mr. Sardonicus, a period piece about a man whose face is frozen in a ghastly grin when robbing the grave of his own father. And as of this recording, Mr. Sardonicus is available for free on YouTube. Some very industrious uploader made it available to us. Now, clever listeners will have detected something different about this intro. Wrong language. And yes, this is usually a podcast in Swedish, but once in a while I have English-speaking guests on, and this is one of those occasions. Joining me to discuss this movie is a true American movie buff. He is one of the co-founders of the podcast network Forever Dog, home of The Best Show, Office Hours Live, Double Threat, Podcast The Ride, so many others, including one of my favorites, American Arts and Culture Review, rest in peace. But more importantly, for the sake of this conversation, he is also the co-host of two great movie podcasts himself, the industry-obsessed Movies Baby with 5 Ys, and the frequently infuriating Weekend at Bergman's, live all the way from Lipstick City. Welcome to the pod, Brett Boham.
Oh, hey, great to be here. That was a hell of an intro. Really appreciate it. And you really locked into the nature of all those shows. Weekend at Bergman's, infuriating, Movies Baby, industry obsessed, and I love the American Arts and Culture Review shout out. Those guys don't get enough love, so that was very special. Then thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here.
Great having you. Just for the listeners, can you describe just what's infuriating about Weekend at Bergman's?
Well, there's a couple things. So the podcast is, as the title kind of implies, we pit art house movies versus popcorn movies that share some kind of theme. So the very first episode we did, which gave the podcast its title, was The Seventh Seal versus Weekend at Bernie's, 2 movies about death. And the theme of the podcast is be honest. No, you're not trying to seem a certain way. You're not trying to seem smart. You're not trying to seem, a man of the people. Forget all those preconceptions. You just watch the 2 movies and you say which one you like better. It's as simple as that. And in that first episode, both my co-host Joe and I enjoyed Weekend at Bernie's more than The Seventh Seal, and that was when we knew we had like a fun premise to explore. And a lot of times the art house wins, but a lot of time the popcorn wins. And the other infuriating part, which you might be referring to, is that there's something called the trash canon where whichever movie loses goes into this thing called the trash canon. And Joe and I can never watch that movie again for the rest of our lives, which is a kind of William Castle-esque, stunt in order to just add some stakes to the podcast. It's totally unnecessary. Our audience hates it. They just feel pity for us that we can't watch like The Seventh Seal again, and other great, because there's a lot of great movies that go in the trash canon that just had a bad matchup. So it's infuriating, but it's also I think a lot of fun, and you'll be on the edge of your seat listening.
Yeah, it definitely. Yeah, it's frustrating at times.
I can tell you really. No, we get people that literally plead with us, like, please, I love the show. Get rid of the trash canon. It has no place here. The show's fine without it. It's just like self-flagellation. I don't know why you do it. And that just makes me kind of feel like it was a good idea to do it. So we're going to keep it.
It's very entertaining. It is. Okay, so Moving on to William Castle, what's your sort of relationship, if any, to William Castle? Have you seen any of his movies before? And most importantly, do you have like an overall sort of take on William Castle?
Yeah, I love William Castle. I realized, like, kind of in preparation for this podcast, that I really haven't. I would assume maybe like a lot of people, I love him based on sort of reputation and lore, and more so than maybe having sort of done a deep dive into the movies themselves. I went back and I think I've only, prior to watching Mr. Sardonicus, I've seen House on Haunted Hill, and then I've seen Tingler, and I the one of the Joan Crawfords, Straight Jacket. And I love those movies, but I think more so I love the kind of concept of William Castle. I love his approach to theatrical distribution, and I love all the gimmicks, and I love all of the kind of like the staging of the movies. I also kind of got into him initially, I think, via like John Waters, because I know John Waters is a huge William Castle guy, and then even played him, I guess, in that TV show Feud. And so, yeah, he's a guy that I kind of love on reputation and because of the other people that love him. But I now I'm realizing after watching Mr. Sardonicus, I'm like, I gotta watch the movies, because the movies aren't like an afterthought to I think a William Castle fandom. They should be at the center of it. So I gotta go through and do a deep dive into the movies now.
The showmanship is definitely what caught me as well, and I think in a weird kind of way, because I remember watching Joe Dante's Matinee from 1993, maybe.
Yeah.
And John Goodman's character is obviously William Castle in that movie. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, okay, so that's based on someone real. And then again, like through reputation, more or less. And then I did like a sort of cursory sweep of his movies, like maybe 20 years ago now. Back then, they were kind of hard to come by, at least over here, and so now I was like, I need to do like a really deep dive, and that's what led on this season of the podcast.
Yeah, I gotta, because I think I'd always sort of conflated him in my head with like Ed Wood, and people like that, and watching Mr. Sardonicus in particular, like I don't feel like that's entirely accurate, because and I love Ed Wood, but like there's some like real filmmaking prowess in Mr. Sardonicus, and there's like some shots that I really liked, and so I think and I was reading about how he sort of came up, in the studio system at Columbia, and so this is a guy that has like a real knack for making the movies, not just promoting them. And so I think that was one misconception I had, that when I was watching Mr. Sardonicus, there was definitely like 2 or 3 shots where I was like, damn, that's like a really good framing. Like I thought you were just like the kind of gimmicks guy. But now I'm excited to go back and really watch the movies.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I mean, he's definitely not on the, I love Ed Wood as well, but like he's not like on the sort of technical, incompetence as Wood and others. Yeah. And what's interesting when you read his autobiography, which I have here, he definitely is most proud of like the production and the gimmicks. He almost never discusses, the actors, rarely the story, it mostly about the gimmicks, and mostly like how he acquired the rights to something, and just a lot of like, I mean, it's funny, it's very entertaining to read, but it's like, if you want to get some insight into like how he actually directs, no. I don't think it's a coincidence that he tends to call himself like a producer first.
That's so interesting. Yeah. I wonder then if maybe the better comp is like a Russ Meyer, then, because it's like, because I feel the same way about Russ Meyer, where like, when you read his book, it is like all he talks about is like the promotion of the movies and the cup size of his lead actresses, and like it's just all about the freaking like the all the stuff around the movie. But then you watch those movies and it's like there's some really nice shots in here. There's like some really good framing. Like so I wonder if it's just like a worry of those guys that they'll sound pretentious if they start talking about the filmmaking, and it's sort of, they want to be P.T. Barnum, they want to just sort of, be the showman and like the gimmicks guys. But it's like, you guys have an eye, like it's you both have like a real eye, and you might not want to admit it, but you do.
That's true. He frequently talks about Hitchcock in his book, and not in a sort of jealous way, and he doesn't sort of puts himself on the same level as Hitchcock. Obviously, he adores him, and he's like the master, you know. But it's very obvious how he sort of concocts his own version of like the public persona of Hitchcock. Like he's sort of the B movie mirror to Hitch.
Yeah. That's perfect.
So, Mr. Sardonicus stars Oscar Homolka, Ronald Lewis, Audrey Dalton, and Guy Rolfe as the titular Sardonicus. Written by Ray Russell, who adapted it from his own short story, which Castle optioned when reading it in Playboy during a vacation trip to Hawaii.
I was reading the bio too last night a little bit, just the Sardonicus part, and that scene cracked me up. That he's poolside in Hawaii, just reading Playboy, and he's like, "Here's my next movie,"
and apparently like rushed to a phone, called his managers, you know.
Oh man!
And Russell is perhaps most known for writing screenplays for two of my actual favorite Roger Corman movies. The Poe adaptation, The Premature Burial, and the Ray Milland Tour de Force, X, The Man with the X-Ray Eyes, 1962 and 1963, I think. And he also collaborated with Castle on one of Castle's non-horror movies of this era, the wacky and not very good Zots from 1962, about an oddball professor who finds an amulet that gives him superpowers. And Miss Sardonicus opened in America in October of 1961. And I always like to check if the movie made it over here to Sweden as well. We're a small country. And, well, it turns out that Mrs. Sardonicus was intended to open here, but was banned, outright banned by the Film Censorship Board. In November of 1961, I looked it up. And that's apparently the end of its history in Sweden. As far as I can tell, it's never been screened on like Swedish television or even at the Cinematheque in Stockholm. So that's it. Like it got banned in 1961, and that's it.
Wow. Is there any details on what caused the ban?
I haven't gone that far into the archives, but I'm guessing just because of its violent nature, I guess.
Yeah.
The censorship board was fairly active in those days, and just they either demanded you cut the movie, like cut down like all the violent scenes and everything, or they just outright banned it.
Wow.
But we don't have a censorship board anymore. That ended in 2011, I think. So quite recent. Any initial thoughts on Mr. Sardonicus, Brett?
I had a blast watching it. This is really up my alley. I mean, whatever you want to call it, kind of B-movie horror, sort of campy horror, particularly from this period. And I know Vincent Price isn't in this one, but like anything that's sort of Vincent Price adjacent, it like feels like something he could be in, is definitely a movie that I'm gonna love. And this one was no exception. Like I had I had a lot of fun watching it, and I was thinking too, this is such a great director, I think, to do a series on now, because with all the kind of anxieties about the future of theatrical distribution right now, and it's a big topic of conversation in Hollywood and in American film right now about is Netflix just going to swallow everything and that's going to be the end of theatrical distribution? I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's overstated, because this is a crisis point that just happens every like 10 to 15 years in Hollywood, and then the movies survive. And I think that's what will happen this time as well. But while we're kind of in this moment and we're all freaking out about the future of theatrical distribution, it's so fun to watch a director who only thinks in terms of the movie being seen theatrically. And I was realizing watching it too, it's not just the gimmicks and the whatever promotional thing he came up with. he's like the way he's like filming and sort of structuring scenes, like everything about the movie is designed to be watched with other people in a room. The way he like draws moments out, the way he like holds off on the big scare, like everything about it's like giving the audience time to react, time to kind of chatter about something. Like everything is really directed for theatrical distribution. And I'm gonna keep an eye out. I'm sure the New Beverly or one of these theaters around town is gonna have a William Castle movie soon. I'm gonna go see it because I can't wait.
I can actually fill you in then,
Ooh,
because on December 18th, like in a week from where we're recording this, somewhere in Los Angeles, there will be a screening of The Tingler
no way!
with
With tingling?
tingling.
Yes, yes. All right, I'm gonna look that up right after this is done.
It's being
I'll be there.
it's being screened by these guys from they call themselves Hollywood Entertainment.
Oh, I love those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know them. I know them. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
apparently,
All right.
like there's going to be like one of Castle's grandkids there or whatever. So
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
And Eric Notonacola has worked with buzzers in the seats, so he's
that's
like,
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. And this is why I think like again, like this is a very small example of it, but like going to a movie is just so deep in our blood and our bones. And it wasn't just movies, it's going to the freaking Coliseum or the Greek amphitheater or whatever. Like it's not going to go away, people. It's not going to go away. It might evolve as it always does, but it's not going anywhere.
And I mean, back in Castle's days, he was, of course, up against television, which was the big, cinema killer back in those days. So we've been there before, of course, many times.
That's the important thing to remember is like this is just again one battle after another. Like we fight this battle every 10 to 15 years and the movies just they evolve, and I think it's good. Like I think the movie should be forced into these crisis points every 10 to 15 years in order to like reevaluate what they're doing, update what they're doing, be creative. Like this is a good problem to have, and it's and I promise I feel like everyone will like whatever the solution is, whether it's just like more big premium format screens or who knows, bring back the William Castle stuff. Let's get some let's do, I know they have like the 4DX stuff, which is sort of, hit or miss, but a friend of mine has like back trouble now after going to a 4DX screening, but
Jesus.
I think more like stunts, more gimmicks is so fun. I love it.
I agree, absolutely. And I mean, you see it in, be it like 4DX or IMAX or whatever, but I think Castle showed that you don't have to have like the biggest screen necessarily or like the fattest sound system. You need to be like creative or unique in some fashion.
That's a great point. Yeah.
And so this movie is almost like pure like gothic horror, which is, I mean, definitely more so than any other of his productions. I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe this is maybe the only like period piece, like at least as far as like really old times, like we're talking Victorian times here, 1880s. Plenty of Edgar Allan Poe vibes, of course.
Yes.
Feels also a bit like a Hammer movie, or maybe like an entry, like a late entry in the Universal horror canon. One of the sort of 50s sequels to a Frankenstein, which everybody forgot about, or you sort of keep waiting for like a Dracula to show up, because Sardonicus, the Baron, is very much, I mean, the whole, we'll get to it, but like his whole thing is like you keep waiting for the monster to show up, basically.
Yeah. And they literally do like the Dracula beats of him, like, he leaves London and goes to an Eastern European country, and the locals are warning him, and it's like, and that stuff I love too, where it's like, these are just genre tropes, recycle them. Like nobody needs to be precious about.
Yes, I think as you, such a comfort in watching those movies.
Yes.
Like, yes, I know the beats. Yes, I've seen it before, but it's like, it's so nice.
That's it. There's a joy in like genre repetition. Absolutely.
Anyway, it starts out with Castle himself in the London fog. He recorded these intros more and more as he became as famous as his movies. And again, I don't think he had like a Hitchcock complex necessarily, but he sort of fashioned himself like a B-movie version of Hitchcock. And he said like, good to see you again, my homicidal friends, which is great. What a great greeting.
It's so awesome. And I can just picture like you just think about all the like I can just picture like a young John Waters in Baltimore just like loving that. Just like you know who he's talking to and who's like getting like the kind of film lover that's just like really loving that. Yeah.
Yeah. And he looks delightful. I mean, he's just beaming, you know?
Yeah.
He looks so happy about like he's got something in his eye, like he's a troublemaker in a way. Like he sort of likes it.
I love that dynamic. I love that he didn't create like a creepy persona. Like I'm gonna come out in like a Grim Reaper cloak or something. You're right. He is like he's kind of like almost like avuncular or sort of jovial. He's like, but he also has that little glint where he's like, this is going to be fun and I'm going to scare you, but it's going to be fun and we're all kind of in it together and just come on this ride with me. I love the intro. Absolutely love it.
I think he also, in that sort of jovial way, and not, of course, as extreme, but there is something like Herschel Gordon Lewis about, you know, the sort of, the psycho happiness about like killings and murders, and he doesn't go as far as HGL, of course, but he also has that kind of weird, sort of happy, joyous way about like horror, basically.
And it's so great because that's the way to watch horror is without like with all of your sort of whatever little like, you know, sort of puritanical social things have attached themselves to your brain as you've grown up or, you know, however you grew up. It's like he just frees you of all that. He's like, you don't have to feel bad about loving violence on the screen. You don't have to feel bad about any of this. This is a cathartic entertainment experience. People have been doing it for thousands of years. Like you can be free to enjoy this. And that's like such a great sort of thing to hear when you go into a horror movie. Is just like, this is entertainment and it's catharsis and it's not real and we're going to have a blast. And you should love what you see on the screen and not feel bad about it at all.
I love that he looks up the definition of ghoul.
Yeah. They are so specific about the literal definition of ghoul in this movie.
An evil being who robs graves and feeds on corpses, which is funny. I must admit I haven't looked up the actual definition, but it truly delights him.
He loves like the literal meaning of ghoul, and then in the movie itself, there's that moment where like Sardonicus gets so mad when someone uses ghoul figuratively, and his wife has to be like, he's talking figuratively. It's okay. He's not this word has kind of become general. It's all fine now. But yeah, the movie is like very adamant that you know what the dictionary definition of ghoul is, and I'm glad that I do now.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's not like I was thinking about like, oh, you have ghouls, you have ghosts, you have goblins, but like ghoul is yes, true. Well, now that I think about it, I don't know if I have a clear definition of goblins either. But like, I think ghouls, for me, ghoul is, I perhaps needed that definition after all.
Yeah, because I had a very vague sense of it. And I love doing like, when people do like a full taxonomy of all those terms and tell you exactly like what an incubus is versus what a troll is versus a goblin, and these things do have like very specific like origins and very specific like sort of ritualistic or folkloric meanings. I love it. Ghoul was one that I was not aware had such a specific origin. But hey guys, let's use ghoul correctly moving forward. Okay, it exclusively refers to some sort of monster that eats dead bodies out of their graves, or does it eat them? Or am I making that up? Or no?
It robs graves.
Robs. Okay.
And feeds on corpses.
And feeds on corpses. Right. Okay. Good. Those are the two important things.
So they're not only like cannibals, I guess, but also thieves.
Yeah.
Robbers.
Yeah. I guess like what is I would feel like the feeding is maybe the primary impulse. It would be weird if the thieving was the main thing, and then you also just took a bite. So I have to imagine the cannibalism is probably the driving impulse.
Yeah.
And then you're like, while I'm here, I might as well take this watch.
And Castle doesn't really introduce the gimmick of the movie, which is something he often did in the beginning of his early movies. Sort of, hey, this is what's going on. You're here. You're seated. Welcome. But rather, it comes later on as a surprise. But he sort of cleverly introduced himself already, so we know him when he then returns later.
And I like that, because I like that. I don't think the audience should be in their head sort of like calling sort of balls and strikes in terms of like, the morality of the character. Like, you don't want to like watch the entire movie with this sort of judgment in your head. I like that you just get to watch the movie freely, and then that gimmick to me works so much better just coming as a surprise at the end, like the punishment pole thing.
Yeah, it really works.
Yeah.
And we're in good old London, 1880s. This is Victorian London, of course. And they are, of course, not on location. They're on some Columbia backlot. Yeah. And I thought it was like a dead giveaway at first. I was like, oh, this is bound for the IMDb goofs section, when I saw that some of the street vendors sold bananas. but then... to my chagrin, it turns out bananas were sold in London as early as 1633.
Wow.
Which is, you learn something new every day, right?
I did not know that. I would not have thought that. I know famously, like, oranges were a big thing because they would, at the theater, because it kind of, smelled pretty terrible with so many people packed into such a small area. They would sell oranges, so you would like hold them up to your nose, and you could like you didn't have to smell like the butcher next to you who's there for Shakespeare. You could just like smell this orange. But bananas is a surprising one. I would not have thought bananas in London.
Yeah, I guess because of the empire, I guess.
Right. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah.
But like for me, like for bananas in Sweden, they were a very rare commodity until at least the 1950s.
Wow.
Actually, I remember my grandfather, who worked he was a Navy guy, and he came home from one of his like trips when my mom was a kid. This must have been like early 50s. And he had brought bananas, like one of those big, like, what do you call it? Like a big, like a branch, maybe?
Bunch of bananas, yeah.
A bunch of bananas. And like all the kids in the area came by just to see them. Because it was such a novelty,
Yeah, yeah.
And this is, of course, like in the countryside. So that might explain it. But like, still.
Yeah. No, it's a striking, interesting fruit. Yeah, it's very interesting.
But anyway, I was not, that IMDb goof was not to be.
I did notice, I will say, that silhouette of London had like a few extra buildings in it. There was like, I feel like because I was like, London doesn't have a skyline like that. There was like, I bet they reused like a Manhattan skyline and like, and just kind of, it's like, if we put fog in front of it and have Big Ben, then nobody will know the difference.
I love the fog, though. It was great. Really effective, yeah. And we meet a guy with a funny last name, I think. Sir Robert Cargrave.
Cargrave, yeah.
Cargrave. He's a physician at some clinic of some kind, treating a child suffering from, he's got a limp leg, maybe. He looks like a miracle worker, whatever it is. He's obviously some kind of medicinal trailblazer, unorthodox methods. You sort of get the impression that he's at the forefront of something, whatever it is. I'm not very, very convinced of his methods. It mostly seems to be like warm cloths and some kind of massage. But I don't know. He looks like the hero of the story, which he definitely is.
Yes, yeah, he's like established as like a great surgeon. He's helping kids. There is like the slightest bizarre undertone when he is like moving that girl's leg back and forth. That like there's a couple close-ups on him where for a second I was like, is he got something going on? But no, it didn't turn out to be. He's just kind of like a straightforward sort of one-dimensional hero here. But there's a couple of shots there that were a little odd. But again, I think it's like Castle just sort of he loves to sort of draw these moments out and and I feel like that's to let the audience sort of react and sort of,
Hmm.
and so yeah, but that scene of like it's not even surgery, it's just he's just sort of moving her leg up and down and then I don't know, I guess it worked. So whatever happened worked. But yeah, there's a tone to it that I found kind of bizarre. It was
I like
interesting.
also that he gets like some shipment, and it's like, oh, this is the new thing I was talking about, and it's like the hypodermic needle.
Yes. This is one of my favorite thing in movies is when they will stop and like explain an object in great detail. And this was the kind of the only part of this. Did you see the new Bruce Springsteen biopic,
No.
Deliver Me from Evil? So you can skip it; it's not good. But it's there's like one moment in it that cracked me up where Bruce Springsteen discovers what a 4-track recorder is, and there's like no joke, like 3-minute scene where this audio engineer is like explaining to him what a 4-track is, and he's like, "Okay, so and I can use this in my bedroom," and it's like, and it's just like, it's my favorite part of the movie. I love when they like stop and explain like an object. It's the best.
Yes. Like everything stops in its tracks and
Yeah.
just yeah.
Because I was also like, yeah, I just sort of always assumed hypodermic needles were around, but I
Me
guess like
too. I
at
mean,
some point they were
I'm
new. Yeah.
I'm grateful for the
Yeah.
sort of presentation.
Yeah, I
It's like,
agree.
yeah. But anyway, a man with an almost shut left eye later turned out to be missing completely,
Mhm.
and a very thick, very general Central European accent arrives and demands to see Sir Robert, and he carries with him a sealed envelope addressed to him. And the nurse says, I love the nurse line. She says, it appears to be from the continent, which is a very British thing to sort of say
Yes.
still.
Yes. No, yeah, for sure. Yeah, now more than ever. And I will say that Sir Robert thing is so funny. And this is also why I was like, I had some false signals that Robert Cargrave might end up having sort of some darker instincts, is that like he has clearly corrected people multiple times to like call him Sir Robert because
Hmm.
everyone is like very conscious of calling him Sir Robert, Sir Robert. And there's even like a point where someone doesn't, and then another character corrects them and says it's Sir Robert, not just Robert. And I was like, this guy has
Yeah, I
been,
mean, you sort
yeah,
of, I mean, you detest him, of course, but
yeah,
it's like, yes, he's our hero, but it's like,
right.
he's also like an asshole in
He
certain
is,
aspects. Yeah.
he is.
He's very taken aback by this letter, though, and it appears to come from a woman he once was like engaged to, maybe, and she was forced by her father to marry someone else, someone rich. I suppose Sir Robert wasn't fancy enough, but I guess he wasn't Sir Robert back
He wasn't
then.
Sir yet. Yeah.
Yeah, but still, like, hey, if it's the 1880s and you're sort of getting your medical degree, and in a couple of years you become a knight, and you're not fancy enough. I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
Come on. Oh, we do. That's interesting because we do have two like kind of nouveau riche guys
Oh
because
yeah,
like Cargrave it is implied that he was like kind of must have like worked his way up through medical school and now has achieved this like status and title and everything and whatever wealth would come with being a doctor at that time. And then Sardonicus as well,
yeah.
is like was not sort of, from noble lineage. So you do have like, and I wonder if that's part of it is like the kind of insecurities of like nouveau riche guys that they're kind of like they're new to their wealth and their status, so they have to
Yeah.
kind of make a point of it a little bit more.
I do also think that I'm going to go on a tangent here, but I do think that it might be a bit of an American mindset when it comes to like, oh, social mobility, sure.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like
Right.
1880s in Europe, I mean, no. You're born in your class, in your status, and you'll die there. But of course, Sardonicus it's a bit different when it comes to him.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's a great point though. It's a very American approach to like class and mobility of just like, oh yeah, you like win the lottery and then you like you got everything. It's just no barriers to entry.
so Robert is apparently very much not over her. I mean, he's still got her portrait in his pocket watch, which is, I don't know, depending on how you see it, a bit creepy maybe.
I'm telling you, the boxes are getting checked for Robert early. I really thought this guy was up to something. He carries like his ex's picture in his locket, and she like speaks to him. There's like that voiceover.
Oh,
It's,
yeah.
yeah,
And also, like, he reads the letter and instantly orders his nurse to cancel all appointments, like, forever, and order transportation to Gorslava, this made up weird generic
yeah.
European country, which
Yeah.
I'm guessing like maybe the Czech Republic or southern Germany, kind of that kind of vibe. Basically like a Frankenstein village, or a,
Yes.
more so than perhaps Transylvania.
Yeah. And he's got like the appointments he just canceled, as far as we know, are just like more sick children. So
Yes.
this guy is just like, forget it. Forget the Hippocratic Oath. I'm out of here. Another kind of duty calls.
And he takes the train, of course, which you did back in those days. And I love that the station he arrives at is simply called Gorslava as a country. It's almost like airplane level joke.
Yeah.
And like you implied before, the locals in Gorslava, of course, react with some shock or disbelief when he says that I'm going to visit the Baron Sardonicus. And the station manager really sort of skirts the issue of why maybe. Well, he says like, oh, you don't have. Does he say like, oh, you don't have like daughters, or you don't have teenage daughters?
Yes. Yeah. So the implications are like women have been going missing up and around the Sardonicus castle. And again, it's like exactly the Dracula beats, which I love. I could watch that 100 times and never get tired of like you show up in the village, you say, oh, can I get a taxi to the Sardonicus castle? And then everybody goes, oh, the Sardonicus castle. Oh, beware. And then the hero goes, I'll be fine. And then heads on up there. I love it.
Yeah, and of course, what we also love is the man who showed up at the clinic in London shows up here as well.
Yes,
and he is the Baron's right-hand man, and it's called Krull. Yes, like the
Conqueror,
like the fantasy movie from '83, maybe.
Yes.
He shows up and escorts Sir Robert to the castle. And it's all very much, as you said, like Frankenstein, Dracula vibes.
Yes.
And he rereads the letter, which sort of fills us in on the story. His old love, Maud, is now married to this Baron Sardonicus. He doesn't really know much about the Baron. And she writes that both she and the Baron wants to see him, and that it is most urgent to Maud's well-being that he comes. So she obviously still, and she knows this, that she still commands a certain amount of like sway and power over him.
Yeah.
Especially as he drops everything to travel there.
Oh yeah, she knows she's got the bat signal. All she's got to do is put it up in the sky, and the sky will come running.
Of course, he arrives in the carriage at the castle, and the fog is very nice there as well. And now we're getting into like the whole bondage themes of this movie, which we haven't really touched upon yet, but like this is interesting. So the first thing that happens is when he arrives at the castle is that he comes upon one of the maids, I guess, whose face is covered in leeches, and Krull sort of shrugs like, hey, I don't know, might help with some stuff. And he says like, oh, she's how you say guinea pig.
Yeah.
But it looks like she's being tortured or something. I mean, I'm not sure really what's going on here, but we established a couple of things here, which is that this is on the orders of the Baron, of course, and he seems like a sadist. Like it's very much. It seems like, does he get off on this stuff? We don't know because he's not there. He has instructed Krull to do this to this poor girl. And also that Sir Robert is, of course, furious about this treatment of this young lady. Mm-hmm. And he's a man of science. Yeah. And leeches are like a thing of the past.
I had to do the math in my head. I was like, oh, I guess they're not doing leeches anymore in the 19th century. I had no idea like when leeches stopped being sort of like sort of approved science or medicine.
It's come and gone and come
Yeah,
again, maybe.
yeah, yeah.
I do know that they are not those kinds in the movie, but like smaller leeches are
Mm.
sometimes applied to hard healing wounds, and they eat the sort of the dead materia, like the dead tissue.
Wow, so they can be useful
Yes, still.
in like targeted kind of ways. Yeah.
Yes.
And I read too that William Castle like initially wanted to use real leeches. And there was
Yes,
like
I read
some
it
sort of
too.
like, yeah, some like the actor was like, no way. And he's like, here, give me a leech. I'll put it on. I'll show you it's like no big deal. And then he like couldn't get it off. And he was like, okay, never mind. Bad idea to do real leeches. We'll create the fake leeches. We'll find it in the budget.
But I found it interesting. There is a bit of a theme of like a BDSM
For
bondage
sure.
theme in
For
this
sure.
movie, which becomes like more, common in, say, the European exploitation movies of like the late 60s, early 70s. All the nunsploitation movies, all
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
sexploitation movies, so much bondage. And what's interesting about this here is, of course, that basically Castle's movies are sexless. He's very much like a family guy, family man, kind of
Yeah.
an entertainer. And he sort of avoids mostly everything, like even like love, like
Mm. Yeah.
there's always like a couple, of course, and they kiss and so on, but like never ever anything. He says like multiple times in various interviews that his core audience are like 9 and 10 year olds.
It's amazing. Very American too. The idea that like 9 and 10 year olds, they can take like extreme violence and kind of and like sadism, but like sex is gonna create problems. They're not ready for that yet.
Yeah.
It's just such an American approach to like like content.
But so that was why it was so interesting to see that here.
Yeah, and this movie, yeah, because this there's I felt a lot. It's funny you mentioned because I didn't feel like any sort of sexual tension or chemistry between like the two people that are supposed to be like sort of unrequited lovers. Like there's nothing there beyond the fact that they are just functioning as protagonist and love interest. But there's a lot in the violence. There is a lot of, I think, sexuality and like sexual undertones or just kind of like overt sexuality, throughout the movie. And this is also like the first, like that cut to her with the leeches on her face, I think is like the first like full scare in the movie, right? I mean, it's like the first thing
Yeah.
that I saw that was like a real, like, I didn't read anything to this effect, but I have to imagine those moments were kind of methodically like beated out by Castle of like, okay, so 15 minutes in, because it was like 15 minutes on the dot that shot comes in. And I have to wonder that if that was like very intentional, methodical, like, okay, at the 15-minute mark, we're hard cut into something scary.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's going to be the first big, like, oh, in the
Hmm.
audience.
So Robert reunites with Maud, and I think it's a bit stale, a bit stiff.
For sure.
He's still like madly in love with her, but like she's very distant, and she, as is the way in most of these movies, like the sort of gothic horror, she's like, oh no, everything's fine, but you wrote like you were desperate for me to come here, and she's
Yeah.
like, oh no, I mean, it's all fine here,
Yeah.
and he says, and in addition to that, he says like, oh, so your husband, he seems a bit weird, he's like bad guy, maybe, like everybody's scared of him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she was like, oh no, no way, it's great. And of course he has to say like, oh, I can't wait to meet him face to face.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah. And oh, there he is, and then he shows up, and of course he's not weird at all, he's just got a full mask covering his face. How would you describe the mask?
Yeah, it's very it's almost like that movie like Eyes Without a Face or
Yes.
kind of like a Michael Myers, is like it's a very sort of it's terrifying in its like sort of formlessness. It's like
Yeah, it's
very
almost featureless.
yeah, featureless. Yeah, it's like very just like sort of white, plain, featureless mask. And I will say the one thing that Castle does a couple times that I do think, because I was overall really impressed with just his like filmmaking instincts, but like there's one thing that he does where there's like a couple things that are supposed to be sort of jump scary, but they kind of like happened clunkily where so the appearance of the first appearance of Sardonicus, the character, she'll like look off screen, and then Cargrave will look off screen, and then they'll play the sound effect, and then they'll cut to Sardonicus. It's like it's this like it's just very like I kind of love it because it's just sort of it's just telling you this is a movie and these are all tropes and devices that we're using, but it was like a little clunky and it sort of happens like one thing at a time as opposed to this like seamless like jump scare.
Yeah. I'm thinking also of what we discussed earlier with like the audience. It really plays to the audience. It doesn't really plays to you and I watching it on YouTube like in the year 2025.
Very true.
It's very much playing to the room 1961, and you need like the audience reactions. You need the audience to sort of catch up to what's happening. So maybe that's kind of one way of looking at it, but I agree it's also a bit clunky. It can be both.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, because I noticed that throughout the movie, and I love that aspect of the movie. That it's kind of like in a comedy where you don't want to have like a great joke follow another great joke because you need to leave time for laughter. They're going to laugh over the second great joke. I see a lot of that here, where I can see him like he's thinking about pacing things according to perceived audience reaction. He knows how they're going to react, and so he's going to pace things out so that the reaction is almost like part of the movie. It's like sort of tied into the movie itself.
Yes, and we have like a very awkward dinner scene where he, of course, the Baron doesn't eat or drink anything, but they have like a discussion about like, or maybe even an argument about like Shakespeare and Othello, and like really proving themselves to be like well-read,
sophisticated. Yes. Well, there's an amazing cut in there that was so good where
theater.
Sardonicus is like, tell me what's on the stage lately, and then Cargrave is like, well, and then it cuts before he says anything to is it Anna again, or so with her like tied up by her thumbs, like in that other room. That cut was amazing because I was like, you're right. I don't want to hear. I don't need like a monologue about what's going on the
and then
London
they cut
stage.
back, right? They cut back to it. It was like, oh, that sounds great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they cut back to the end of the conversation. I was like, perfect.
Maybe we should say a few words on the, what do you call it? Like a very disturbing party scene where Krull corrals a bunch of young ladies from the village to the castle, promises them, wine, food, perhaps even gold, and he picks one of them and sort of shoos the other away, and then tortures her. At the time, sort of unclear why. Is this just like a sadism thing? But it's like it really ramps up the sort of violence.
I was trying to get a handle on Krull. He's kind of maybe the most fascinating character in the movie because he keeps having that line over and over where he's like, I'm a workman. Whatever Sardonicus says, I do. That's how he like constantly kind of justifies his involvement in all of this. But it's like, you're more than that. You are like, you're adding a little relish to every part of this. Like you enjoy the sadism and the torture, and like there's a real sense that he's like getting some sort of pleasure out of it. But he insists, I am simply a functionary. I just
a
do
worker.
What Sardonicus says. I clock in, I clock out. This is my job. And it's like, but that was like that dynamic is fascinating to me. And like I loved that character was such an interesting, just like little slight twists on like the henchman that made it a little bit more than a henchman.
It's so interesting that his first bill, I believe, Oscar Homolka, like a big character actor. So at this point, I'm like, what's the deal with Sardonicus? Is he just a straight up sadist? Is that like, that's it? It doesn't seem to, I mean, he's barely present for many of the torture scenes. He's not even there. Like, so what's his deal? We'll get to that, of course. But at this point, I'm just like, this is just a villain of the like one-dimensional villain.
And I liked that too, because this, for a B horror movie, there is a lot of like plot, like there's a lot to eventually reveal, like plot wise. Like this is not a just like he's a monster and he kills people, or like he had this one thing happen, like one specific thing happen in his life and then that made him like bad. It's like there is like, when you finally get the backstory, there is like a lot of sort of points there to establish to get us to the present. But I like that Castle doesn't really worry about that. He's like, I'm just going to give you a lot of sort of horror like set pieces kind of over and over and over again. And then I'll explain at the end, it'll all make sense. But he really like, he's just giving you sort of horror set pieces, but really like sort of playing up the mystery of like, what are the motivations? Why is this happening? What are the motives? Like, but I think that was smart to not obsess over the complexities of the plot and just assume that it'll all make sense by the end.
And at this point since we don't see his face, we can't really judge him. Like he seems like a bad guy, but we're not sure because he doesn't show his face. So it's kind of interesting that way. I just noted a funny detail. Speaking of like Sir Robert and maybe how weird he is. He hears this blood-curdling scream from one of the ladies from before, while he unpacks his bag, and he sort of just shrugs and does nothing.
He does nothing. He does nothing.
So interesting for a hero to. I was sure he was gonna like bolt out of the room and sort of. Did you hear the scream? You know, nothing.
You could argue that he's the real villain of the movie. I mean, he just like abandons all these sick kids that he has to help in London at a moment's notice. He's a kind of hero where you have to like force feed the heroism into his mouth. Like he's not going to take action. He does. I mean, sure, he comes running, but that's more like that's more implied that it's because of his romantic attachment, you know, than sort of some sense of like heroism or duty or anything like that. Yeah, because he hears this scream. In my head, I literally feel like in his head, he's like, well, that's not Maud screaming, so it's not really my problem. Like he's like stops for a second and he's like, not Maud. Moving on. I'm gonna just keep unpacking. That's some other poor person, and they're not my problem. It has that like, it's just such a like, because he definitely hears it, right? He has to hear it. It's like deafening in the castle.
Yes, and I think again we can like maybe chalk it up to like, oh, he's a knight now. He's a sir. And he doesn't really need to bother with like the working class anymore. He's a class traitor, basically.
It's funny you say, because I do feel somehow that's his thinking. That like something in the nature or the tenor of the scream tells him this is below my pay grade. This is not the scream of a highborn lady whose honor I have to protect. This is not the scream of like my betrothed. This is the scream of just some fucking schmuck that I don't care about. And so like it's like, and like, you know, maybe we're being a little hard on like none of this is made explicit, but there's got to be some reason that he doesn't respond to the scream, and to me that would explain it.
So finally, Sardonicus tells Sir Robert a very sordid tale of how he became the Baron, and short version of it is that he was once Marek, a humble farmer, and he was of course not a baron. He was married, lived a simple life with his father and his wife. But his dad, as well as his wife, dreamt of a better life, and which he more or less resented, I think. And his dad, to sort of illustrate how he was dreaming of this better life, his dad buys this lottery ticket and is sort of scolded by Marek, of course. Then his dad dies, and before the drawing of the lottery, And of course, it was the winning ticket, but his father has been buried with it. He kept it on him. And Marek's life is sort of unravels. And at the end of it all, he, in a desperate act, digs up the body of his father and retrieves the ticket. And while doing so, his mouth becomes frozen in a horrifying grin, which is akin to the rictus grin, the risus sardonicus in Latin. According to Wikipedia, a highly characteristic abnormal sustained spasm of the facial muscles that appears to produce grinning. It may be caused by tetanus, strychnine poisoning, or Wilson's disease, whatever that is, and has been reported after execution by hanging.
Wow, okay.
And now we see the face for the first time.
Similar to like what you were saying with all of the bondage stuff, like I feel like someone could have a field day with like a Freudian reading or psychoanalytic reading of this movie. His grin, that the way that his face freezes in that sort of like monstrous, grotesque, sort of huge, wide grin, because he sees like the body of his father in the grave, and his father has that just because of like what you're describing, just sort of the reaction of the body to death, decay, whatever.
Yeah.
Similar to rigor mortis, et cetera, et cetera. But then there's no biological or physiological reason that his mouth would do that.
Yeah.
It has to just be psychological, psychosomatic, et cetera. But it's so interesting that like he sees the face of his father and then he like mirrors it in his own face as though, you know, and what is that? Is that like the kind of like a fear of death or a guilt at having robbed his father's grave? And it also is sort of playing into this, you know, the kind of Joker thing of it's grotesque, but it's sort of comical. It's like a you know, a grotesque take on laughing or smiling. It's almost like, you know, yeah, his father's is like judging him from the grave or mocking him from the grave or something, and so that guilt is what like kind of like causes it. It's like there's so much to go into, but there's no reason, like I don't think a biological reason or physiological reason why his body would do that. Yeah, I
think the movie sort of maybe sort of implies at first like it might be even some supernatural thing going on,
okay,
like the spirits or whatever, and then it sort of veers towards more. Of course, we get sort of a quote-unquote scientific explanation at the end. But yeah, I mean, it feels definitely like a guilt thing.
I like that because you're free to like read it. You know, you're free to like read it as like in some sort of thematic way or in some sort of like symbolic way. And I like that they don't sort of provide a like real rational explanation ultimately. So it's up to you to kind of determine, what does this mean? What does it mean that he like his face sort of involuntarily mimicked his dead father's face? It's such an interesting concept.
My question to you, of course, is you and your co-host Joe, you know, you buy a ticket from the Powerball lottery.
You
hit the jackpot. $900 million. So, and Joe, you know, God forbid, croaks. He still got his ticket on him. Would you dig him up?
Absolutely. As a tribute to him, honestly, because one thing I love about Joe is he is like has no patience for like fake forms of morality, like morality that is just ultimately sort of custom or politeness or manners or something masquerading as morality. He has no patience for any of that. And so he would want me to dig up and look, Joe, I'll tell you right now, I'll take care of your family. I will take some for myself, but I won't take it all. I'll make sure everybody's taken care of. And that to me would be honoring his memory, would be desecrating his grave. But something like a grave desecration is exactly what I'm talking about, where it's like, he'd be like, it's fine. What's immoral about a grave desecration? It's only immoral if like based on sort of ritual and like lore and religion and like there's nothing like this is fucking it's nothing at this point. It's like it's not, there's nothing there. Whereas the money would be a huge practical benefit to living real people. So yes. So maybe he's here. Maybe this is well, like I said, the point the theme of our podcast is be honest. So my honest answer is I would be there as soon as the dust had settled. I don't want that ground getting too cold and hard to dig up. I'm there day 2.
It's a lovely sentiment. What would your cutoff be then? So 900 million, yes.
Yeah.
But like $900?
Literally, I would do a cost benefit analysis and like, what does a shovel cost? As long as I can cover costs for my grave robbing expedition, because I will need like a slightly more heavy duty shovel than what I currently have in my garage. So as long as I can cover costs, even if it's like, I walk away with 10, $15, again, he would want me to do it. He would want me to do it.
Also, I think his dad would forgive him. Because his dad was obsessed with this lottery ticket. And I think he would forgive him.
See, this is a great point. I think what the Sardonicus is ultimately plagued by is like an internalized sort of moral code that is not even like, I don't think, because I don't think his dad would judge him. I don't think we there's nothing that we learn about his dad that would suggest that he would not, like my friend Joe, would not want him to dig up that lottery ticket, because they all need the money. They're living in like, they can certainly use the money. They're not like living in like destitution, but they're certainly not well off. So, there's nothing that would suggest that his dad wouldn't want him to do it. His wife wants him to do it. Everyone wants him to do it. So I think there's something. It's projection. Like, I think that his dad's face, it's like his own projection that then mirrors itself back onto him. But it has nothing to do with anyone else's judgment of him. It's like something inside of him snaps and he feels like he has broken some sort of unbreakable law or code. But then again, the whole sort of their obsession with the meaning of ghoul does then sort of like bring in the possibility of like some supernatural element. Either he's like possessed by the spirit of a ghoul, or he has become a ghoul at this point and must face his ghoulish punishment. But I like the psychoanalytic interpretation. I think it's interesting.
Anywho, his wife unalives herself.
Yeah. Yep.
She can't take it.
Yes.
She can't take the grin.
Yeah.
And but he uses the money to buy himself a title and a castle, which apparently you could
they were going pretty cheap those days, I guess.
Yeah. The story is that since then he has devoted himself to finding a cure, which apparently involves torturing young girls, I guess, to no effect at all. So it's very weird. It feels like an excuse, more or less.
Yeah, and it's like him and Krull are bored and they're torturing these girls for sadistic reasons. There's no like practical purpose. There's no like, where's the experiment? What's the experiment? Like, we don't.
And they're not like doctors or
no. It's like just rationalized cruelty because they're miserable.
But Sir Robert, of course, starts treating the Baron, and again, like, his big technique seems to be about like giving him a face massage and some hot towels. It's like, what is this, like a spa? It's not very impressive. And he gives up after one whole day of treatment, which is nuts.
I question Cargrave's like actual medical abilities. He seems to find patients that have problems that are more psychosomatic than physical. He sort of tricks them into not being sick or anymore. But like, yeah, I really question his actual medical expertise. Now I'm even thinking were hypodermic needles new, or were they just new to you? Were you just they've been like in use for a long time, and then you're like, hey, did you hear about hypodermic needles? This is going to make my job a lot easier.
So, but the Baron threatens to, I guess, mutilate Maud if Robert doesn't help him, and again feels mostly like an excuse for the Baron to engage in some bondage. But so Robert agrees to try some experimental treatments, which mostly leads to a bunch of dead dogs.
Yeah.
Which is horrifying.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing if we want to talk about it in like modern terms, I'm guessing he wants to use like muscle relaxants. I mean, if he had like
Yeah.
Botox,
Yes.
that would probably help him. You know, that's kind of
Yes.
what they're trying to solve, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering then, why doesn't he just inject the Baron with some drugs? And so what if he dies? You know, he seems to be a bit stuck up with the whole, I'm a doctor, I have certain ethics, and like, come on, dude.
Come on, you left your clinic in London at like a moment's notice.
Yeah, it's like, the deaths of your patients, or like you have like multiple casualties at this point. But then, of course, Krull is instructed to kill both him and Maud if he refuses. So.
Right. There's like a thin through line that kind of connects it, but there I do have a lot of questions about this whole the healing process and Cargrave's sort of competence and all sorts of questions.
And especially since he's been like from scene 1, he's like portrayed as like a modern man of science. He rejects like the old traditional methods of the people, He's like, this is medicine we're talking about. We need like experimental,
Yeah, and maybe it is just sort of relative to other doctors in the 1880s who were more stuck in the humors and bloodletting and older techniques and stuff. But he's such a good doctor. He was knighted. He's like Sir Robert now. I can't imagine it's easy to be knighted just for being a doctor. He must be like the best doctor in London.
Yes, and I believe like at some point, I don't know why, but does it say like someone says like his age? I think he's like 28, 29,
wow.
something like that, and he's like
he's like a prodigy. Yeah, he's like a medical prodigy. I don't know. I don't know. He's got everybody fooled.
Speaking of Freud, they open up a locked room on the second floor of the house. And of course, that's where the Baron keeps the corpse of his father.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
And it's very... So you mean you robbed his grave again?
Right.
And this time you actually took the whole corpse with you? Like, why?
Yeah. I know, there is like... It's the only thing I would have wanted, and this is not a movie where I'm like dying for more sort of thematic material or anything. It's great as it is, but I would have loved one little thing that would have clarified the father-son relationship so that this sort of all of this makes sense, because there's a lot you could do there, like the father was abusive, or the father was demanding or demeaning, or like there is like anything like that would have sort of set this whole dynamic in motion a little bit more. But as it is, it seems like, and maybe this is also interesting, it seems like a lot of it is just in Sardonicus's head. Like Sardonicus just has sort of created some sort of bizarre power dynamic that persists beyond death between him and his father, or some sort of connective tissue between them, that a lot of it is just in his own head.
Yes, and he sort of, he actually creates the sort of the persona of the Baron and the castle and sort of the self-mythologizing, and he sort of, that's all seems connected in some way with his sort of affliction.
Yes.
Anyway, at the end, Robert injects the Baron with some experimental drug, and it's enough to relax his mouth muscle, but not his heart. And it kind of works. The Robert says to him, don't open your mouth yet. It's like the muscles are very like raw, and you need to like stay silent for a while. But the Baron is very, gracefully, he annuls the marriage, so Maud and Robert can leave together. But when they're at the train station, Krull catches up with them and says, oh, the Baron, he can't open his mouth. He's going mad. He's slowly starving because he can't eat. And not to worry, says Robert. It's all in his head. It's all psychosomatic.
Yeah.
And he has given him some placebo of some kind. Krull returns to the castle, and this is a very like Poe-esque twist, right?
Yes.
He returns to the castle, but he doesn't tell the Baron about this, and he sits down, like Krull sits down at the big table full of food, starts to eat it, while the Baron is like comically trying to stuff his food, stuff his mouth with it. He can't.
It's amazing. It's like Krull's revenge is kind of the ending of the movie. Yeah. And then I think there's that little shot too where he sort of touches at his eye, because the Baron at one point had like sort of, plucked his eye out as punishment for this or that. And so I didn't know Krull had it in him. He kind of was presenting himself as like the loyal employee this entire time who's secretly also getting a kick out of like torturing girls from the village. I didn't think he had it in him, the big revenge, but I don't know if I guess we never got a sequel, but I would love like part 2 Krull, Baron Krull or something. But because you kind of wonder like what I was like wondering when they leave, like everything kind of goes to plan in a way, and they leave for the train station. Everything seems fine. You are in your head like, how was the villain going to get his just desserts? And lo and behold, it was Krull.
I can see like Blumhouse reboot with Krull. Krull's Revenge.
There we go. Yes. Hey, I'd be there day one.
But before this, the Baron sort of starves to death, the end scene, of course, William Castle pops back in.
Yes.
To explain the movie's gimmick, which is the punishment pole. And the pole scene, which is the gimmick, it sort of came about, he explains it in his book, it came about because of a demand from Columbia that Castle shoot a more quote-unquote palatable ending in which Mr. Sardonicus lives.
Which is bizarre, a bizarre studio note.
Of course, Castle refused, but during that stalemate, he realized that Columbia had unwittingly given him the gimmick. So it would have 2 endings, the Columbia's and Castle's, and let the audience decide for themselves the fate of the Baron by a show of thumbs up or thumbs down, which they be given like signs when they enter the theater. And like Colosseum style, for mercy or no mercy. And of course, the audience almost always picked the no mercy. And according to Castle, he shot a mercy ending, but says it was rarely, if ever, used. But there are disputes as to whether that ending was ever shot, as far as I can tell.
I heard something from even one of the actors I was reading that like claims that they never shot the other scene, and then like they've looked for it and they've never found the scene where, like, I mean, because can you imagine like Sardonicus has like a happy ending? Like, what kind of like truly the most mind-bending studio note I've ever heard, because the villain not getting its just desserts, like, what are they talking about? Like, why would they want the villain?
Maybe they were on like what we were into before, like Sir Robert is the villain. And
maybe
the Baron did nothing wrong.
Maybe they feel bad for Sardonicus. That actually makes the most sense. Is a bunch of studio heads being like, I feel bad for this Sardonicus guy. I'd love to see him get a happy ending. That makes it a lot of sense now that I think about it. Yeah.
And so how would you have voted in the poll?
I mean, I definitely would have voted for Sardonicus to get his just desserts, to see what the punishment is going to be, to see what like the big end set piece is going to be. Like, what final like horror sort of move do you have? I probably would have then gone back the next night and voted the opposite way to see the other, that sort of terrible, like, completist instinct in me. I'd be like, well, I got to see the other ending too.
Sure, me too.
But I guess it's like, it's up in the air as to whether that ending really exists. Because when he comes up at the end, William Castle, he is stacking the deck hard. He's like, don't you want to see this Sardonicus guy suffer for all his crimes?
And he's really hamming it up too.
Yeah. It's amazing. He's totally stacking the deck. And then he's like, oh, you miss in the third row. I can't quite see your card. I love all of that.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
And so that's the end of the movie. And it received largely negative reviews, of course. He was used to it, so it didn't really bother him. I think I read somewhere he considered the movie to be, at least the production of it, to be one of his favorite experiences.
Yeah, he sounds like he really liked it, and I don't blame him. It's great. It feels like a very feels like a good one to recommend if you're recommending like William Castle to someone. It feels like a like a kind of signature movie. I think up there with The Tingler and some of the other ones that are well known. Yeah.
I always end these episodes with a question, which is, who are you rooting for in this movie?
Ooh, great question.
And it could be anyone, like from the station manager and upward.
Yeah. So let's see. I'm gonna go through. So not Sardonicus, definitely not Cargrave. I would say because like rooting for someone in a horror movie, you're like rooting. I feel like you're less rooting for the character and you're more rooting for the horror movie to like fulfill its potential. And so in that sense, I am, please don't judge me. I'm rooting for Krull in the movie. I'm rooting for Krull to like, because Krull is like the most just like down and dirty horror character. And so I know that the more Krull is able to accomplish, the more horrific the movie will be. And so in the spirit of the movie, I'm on Team Krull. And I'm sorry, don't judge me. I do feel sorry for all of the women that he tortures and all the people that he's caused misery to. But as a fan of this movie, I'm voting for Krull to just go full Krull, and he does.
Duly noted. I'm taking the more humanistic approach.
Okay, good.
So I'm rooting for the maid Anna.
Yes.
I wish her a long, happy life.
I like that, and that can be part of the sequel. Krull is now the Baron, and then Anna comes back and takes her revenge on Krull. I would love that as a sequel. Blumhouse, you're running out of ideas. I've seen your last couple movies.
That's one of your like recurring criticisms.
The fall of Blumhouse. Yes, yeah.
I don't follow them per se. Is it like careening off a cliff or something?
It is officially now because their last movie, the Five Nights at Freddy sequel, Five Nights at Freddy 2, was abysmal in my opinion. Just like abysmal. Just like no effort, no creativity, no, like one of those movies where there's no movie there. They forgot to make the movie, and I felt that way about all of their movies that have come out over the last like year or so. The Megan sequel, Black Phone 2, Drop, The Wolfman.
A Drop was very disappointing, I think.
Yeah. It's just like, and I love the premise,
which is like a good premise.
Yeah, which is why I rooted for Blumhouse, so hard for so long. Is that like low budget, high concept? They were like bringing back the days of Vincent Price and William Castle and Roger Corman and they found a way to make it viable in like the current sort of economics of movie making. And I am still rooting for them, but oh boy, they got to get their act together. They got to get back on course, and maybe maybe do some William Castle gimmicks, do a Sardonicus sequel. I'll be there. I'll see it 3 times. I'm on record now. I'll see it 3 times.
This has been another episode of Salong 3. Brett, thank you so much for joining me to talk about Mr. Baron Sardonicus.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Do you have anything to plug?
Yeah, I would just love to plug my movie podcast, Movies Baby. Also, Weekend at Bergman's, which you can listen to on our Patreon. That's patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys. We have a lot of fun on there. It's a great place for movie lovers to congregate, to get some great content, to meet other movie lovers. And would just also recommend you check out anything on the Forever Dog label. We're really proud of all of our shows. And if you are a drag fan, we also produce a lot of drag podcasts under our mom label, Moguls of Media. So comedy lovers, drag lovers, movie lovers, check out any of the stuff we make over here. I think you'll dig it.
Awesome. The next episode, as they are published, will be about Straight Jacket, starring Joan Crawford.
Awesome.
Don't miss it. It will be in Swedish, though, so sorry about that. But there will be another episode in English. The last episode of the season will be about Shanks, William Castle's last movie, made in 1974. Jason Walliner is the guest, and it's wild. It's completely wild. You have to see it. You have to listen to the episode. But that's it for us today. And bye.